Welcome to the Reawakening Ancient Feminine Wisdom in Pregnancy, Birth, and Motherhood Summit. I'm your host, Nancy Lucina, and today Xana de Silva will be joining us. Xana has been a doula since 2004 through the Organization of Doulas in Scandinavia. She now supports many budding doulas all across Scandinavia through a comprehensive training program and serves as a parent educator as well as a breastfeeding consultant. She is also a prenatal and postnatal yoga instructor and a Spinning Babies workshop leader. Today, Xana and I discuss all of the reasons why you should hire a doula, what a doula's role is, and why your partner is not a doula, and why a doula also does not replace your partner, and so much more. Hello, everyone, and welcome. Today, we have with us Xana de Silva, who is a childbirth educator for the Organization of Doulas in Scandinavia. And I'm really excited to have Xana with us today because she was actually my teacher. Many years ago, she trained me to be a doula, and I have mentored with her and learned so much from her. So welcome, Xana. Thank you for being here.
Thank you for having me.
Yeah. I wanted to start off with you sharing why you think it's so important to hire a doula if you are pregnant.
Well, I think the most important thing is that a doula increases the likelihood of the woman having an empowering birth. And when you have an empowering birth, everything in life goes so much easier. You will be able to advocate for your child so much more, and your self-confidence will be so much higher, and you will feel better in so many aspects of life. So I guess that's the number one reason. Other reasons could be that a doula increases the likelihood of the woman being able to give birth the way she wants and have her needs met. A doula also reduces the likelihood of having medical complications, medical interventions, and even reduces the need of medical pain relief. So a doula can be like a good substitute for an epidural.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. But also, having a doula at your birth improves the bonding with the child, breastfeeding rates, and even the relationship with her partner. So a doula can affect so many parts of life. So I think it's a really good investment to have.
Yeah, it's funny because I was just going to ask you about, or I wanted to talk to you about also the partner, the relationship between the doula, the partner, and the woman, because a lot of women who are thinking about hiring a doula feel kind of held back by this idea of, well, I already have a partner and they can coach me, or maybe the doula is going to actually replace that role or like somehow take over, and that can also be a fear from the partner themselves, so what do you say to that?
Well, I say that you need both. You both need a doula and your partner if you have one. But the partner is the very best person to give love and to give that emotional support. But love on its own is not enough. It's like you wouldn't choose your number one fan to coach a football team.
Right.
No matter how much the fan loves the team, it's just not going to be enough. But he is still very important, the fan, of course. But if you want to succeed in a football game, you would want to have a coach who knows about football, how to get the players to do their best, how to avoid injury and beat the opposing team. So I see in the same way, a birthing woman needs to have a coach, a doula, who understands birth, how to support women, how to get women to work with her body and to cope with everything that is going on, both from the inside and from the medical system. So yeah, we need both. We both need the fan, the partner with the love, and the doula who can be the coach. So together we can be the very best team for the woman who's giving birth.
Yeah, and I also try to share with partners, like, as a doula, sometimes we're doing really practical things too. Like,
oh, the partner maybe needs a little nap right now, so we're going to allow him to, or her to take a break, you know, and get comfortable. Or maybe they need a cup of coffee. Like maybe the doula will actually go make that or grab a snack. So sometimes it becomes also really practical. And in every
Yeah.
case that and I'm sure it's the same for you, that I've been hired as a doula and there has been that fear there, afterward, the partner is always like, wow, thank you so much
Yes.
for being here. I'm
Yes.
so glad you were here. Like I could do
Mm.
actually my part so much easier, you know?
Yeah, yeah. I mean, often the partner doesn't know what can he or she do.
Yeah.
They see the person they love in so much pain, and it's like, okay, I can hold her hand or I can give her a sip of water, but what else?
Yeah.
So then it can be a very disempowering experience for the partner as well. And it is important that a partner has a good experience for himself and for the relationship, both with a child and with a woman. So yeah, I just feel that the partner, he has his or she has its own experience of being at the birth, seeing its child being born, and not just as in relationship to the person who is supporting the birthing woman, but his own experience is so important as well. And when you are the only person giving support to the birthing woman, it will just be too much. You can't meet both your needs and the woman's needs.
Right.
And then it doesn't get as good as it could get.
Yep. That's so true. That's so true. Something
Yeah.
else I wanted to talk to you about was how doulas can actually kind of be like a voice for the woman in labor. Because we talk about going into labor land, which we can maybe get into a bit later. And so women go so deep into their process that they maybe can't really advocate for themselves. Do you find that to be true in most births?
Yes, definitely, definitely. Because you can't be both in your head and in your body at the same time.
Yeah.
And to advocate for yourself, you have to be in your head. You have to be like at the same level as the medical staff who are telling you need to do this and this and that, and then you need to be able to say, no, actually I've read this and I know that and I feel my body like this. But then you can't be in your body. And to birth a child, you have to be in your body. You can't be in your head. So there are like these two different situations. So you really need somebody to advocate for you. And I often find that the partner, he of course wants to advocate for the woman, but it's very difficult for him to do that as well, because he doesn't know births that well as a doula does. He can get mixed up with, oh, what did she say about that thing, and what about that thing, and what is it that she wanted and what did she not want, and now it's a totally different situation. What does she want now?
Right.
So it can be very overwhelming and confusing for the partner. And especially if the medical staff comes in and says, well, if you don't do this, then you're endangering the life of your child.
Yeah, exactly.
Then the partner is, of course, so emotionally involved, both in the child and in the birthing woman. So he or she is going to say to the doctor, sure, do what you want to do.
Right, exactly.
But maybe there are alternatives that would suit this woman and this situation better.
Yep.
So he can't be an advocate as well as a doula can.
Right.
Because a doula also knows which questions can I ask in this situation, because it's often not that black or white as the midwife or the doctor is saying. So just by me asking relevant questions, the parents are not now getting not just this one message, but they get the whole scope of information, and then they can make a decision that suits them, that feels good for them.
Exactly.
So I can guide them through the decision-making process.
Yeah, exactly. And you can guide the woman and the partner in a way where it can still keep the woman in her body, right? Like I feel that the doula can really be that bridge between the medical kind of jargon, and then the woman, because like when she's
Mm.
deep in that space, you don't want to be throwing all of these kind of words at her. You know, you
Yeah.
want to get to really to the core of the issue, so you can kind of almost act as like a translator is the way that I
Yes.
look at it, and then turn to
Yeah.
the woman and be like, okay, so here are your options, and you know, lower your voice and do it in a way that can still keep her in her body. So yeah, I think
Mm.
that it's so important to talk about this, because I really don't think that women know, especially first time mothers. They just don't know until they've already been through it, how they're not going to be able to speak, you know, just from this mental place, or how if they do,
Mm.
it actually totally pulls them out of their process. So
Mm.
yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Could you share with us what ways doulas can help to relieve pain during labor? What are some tools that you bring to the birth?
Oh,
I know there's
there's
lots.
so much.
Maybe your top favorites.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I guess it depends on the doula scope of knowledge, what she will bring to a bath. Most doulas, over all doulas I know, they use massage and touch, and movement, and trying different positions, using heat like a heat pack, or baths and showers, breathing techniques and relaxation. So those are like the base that I think are common for all doulas. But I also like to use rebozo, which is like a woven cloth, really. Comes from Mexico.
Where I am right now, by the way.
Yes, yes, exactly. So you know all about rebozos.
Yeah.
But I can actually use that to give massage and touch, and also help the woman to stay in relaxed positions. So she might want to stand up, and then I can put the fabric around her back, and I can hold it so she can really lean into it like a standing hammock. It can be really nice. But I can also put the fabric over her back, and then I do like a wriggling, shaking movement. So she gets the pressure all around that part of her body, and this soft and gentle massage, and it's sort of shaking all the tension loose. So that is really good both for relaxation and pain relief. So I use the rebozo a lot at every bath. Then I also use acupressure points. So you know, of course, probably I guess, acupuncture, which is like needles.
Right.
I don't use any needles, but I use pressure. So for example, there is on your hand, here between your thumb, there is a point that is very pain relieving, and it also increases your contractions. So that is something I find is really good for the partner to do. So instead of just like holding her hand, you can actually hold her hand and give pressure at the same time. So it gets like a bit more.
Yeah.
So I use that a lot, and also use a point between your eyes, which is very relaxing. So we can use acupressure for so many things. Also for nausea and vomiting, it can help. It can help increase contractions or help the baby sink down further. So I use that quite a lot, and also teach the partner and the woman herself to put pressure. Yeah.
Yeah.
In Sweden,
Go ahead.
sorry.
No, go ahead.
In Sweden, we also have a technique that we call confident birth. Do you know about that?
Yes.
Yeah, where we combined a calm, natural breath with deep relaxation, positive thinking, and using a dark, deep voice. So the woman is encouraged to use her voice as much as she wants. You could say screaming, but you're not allowed to do any shrill sounds.
Right.
Those are totally forbidden. But the dark and deep sounds,
Yeah.
they're so good. So I use that technique quite a lot as well.
Yeah, that is something that I often find myself repeating a lot at births is like deeper, lower sound. Because what I've noticed is that as women go really shrill, as you said, it kind of pulls them up and out of their body. It's like almost like, oh, I want to
Yes.
escape this sensation. And often with a shrill voice
Mm-hmm.
comes like a lifting of the shoulders and a tensing of the face, you know? So if you can get everything to drop down, and then she can really use sound to help her direct energy too.
Yeah.
I work as a sound healer, so I'm like really sensitive, you know, to stuff like that. And the power behind using our voices to really direct the energy to where we want to go. I think it's so potent, and something that women can just get a gentle reminder about, and then they notice a huge shift in their energy during the birth.
Yeah. So I find this method is or working with these kind of things in combination is so good, because then women can actually fall asleep between contractions as well. And sleeping is so important to be able to cope with everything that happens during a birth, and for your hormones to work as they should. So
It's
really
true. I don't
encourage
think a
women.
lot of women know that you actually can fall asleep in between contractions.
No.
I think the story that's kind of fed to us is like, birth's really intense, birth is really painful, and it's all these things, but actually there are waves, of course. And so there are these moments in between, even if it's 2 to 3 minutes, that you can fall asleep. And what is it? I think you taught us about this. Every minute you sleep in labor is equivalent to like
even 20 seconds during birth is equivalent to 20 minutes while you're not in labor. So if you sleep like 2-3 minutes, well, you're soon gonna have a few hours.
Wow, that's so fascinating. And it does, time gets so slippery in labor too, right? Like for the birthing woman, she's so in this timeless space after a while. So that's super fascinating.
Yeah, I often have clients who come to me for their second or third birth, and they say, oh, my first birth was so long and 30 hours and I didn't sleep for 3 days. And I'm like, why didn't you sleep? No, because they didn't have the tools on how to do it.
Right.
But if you sleep between contractions, it doesn't really matter how long your birth is. I recently had a client, her birth was 3.5 days long.
Wow.
And she had contractions, well, it varied, but at least every 5 minutes during these 3.5 days.
Wow.
And it was fine.
Yeah.
She didn't have a problem with being tired. And she ended up giving birth fully natural, no medical intervention, no medical pain relief. She could cope because she had the tools to support her own body and work with her body and rest and sleep when she needed to. So that's powerful.
Yeah, that actually is so powerful, because I think that that's another thing that a lot of women are really scared of, is the time and how long it's going to take. And if it goes over this time, then it means this, and then I have to do this. So yeah, it's really nice to share that there actually are alternatives happening, you know?
And that's something I hear a lot from clients that have given birth previously. They say, oh, my first birth, it was so long. I asked them, how long was it? They're like, 18 hours. And I like, oh, well, actually, that's a fast birth for a first time mom. So just having a doula during the pregnancy that can give you like the range of what is normal, what can you expect? Well, you can expect your birth for first time mom, the average is between 28 and 33 hours. So then you know that 18 hours, oh, well, that was pretty fast. I'm really happy with this. But if you're expecting birth to be 10 hours, and you don't know what to expect, well, then 18 hours is going to feel like a lot.
Yeah, exactly.
So, so a lot of the doula work is, of course, before you even get to the birthing room.
Absolutely. I'm really glad that you brought that up. That's a really good point. The earlier you can hire a doula in your pregnancy and take some time to find one that resonates with you, the better, because then the doula can really get into your world, you know, because each woman works differently, and then the doula is able to really offer you exactly the kind of support you need. And that's what I think is so just amazing about being a doula and hiring a doula is that it's such a tailored to your personality kind of thing. I think more than
Mm.
a lot of the times more than a midwife too, even if you're going to birth at home with a midwife, simply because I think that there are a lot of demands on the midwives, you know, and there often isn't that kind of time to get really really personal and really vulnerable, you know. So I think
Mm.
that that's also what the doula can offer throughout the whole pregnancy, that kind of like
Yeah.
red thread of support, you know. And then postpartum
Definitely.
too, right?
Yes, yes.
Yeah, it's not like
Postpartum
the
can
doula
be a
just disappears immediately after the
mm,
baby's born, you know?
no.
Yeah.
No, that also depends on the needs of the family, how
Hmm.
long they need the doula um, to see her and how often, and or just be a phone call away.
Right.
Often, just a phone call away makes the parents feel so safe, so they
Yeah.
don't actually have to call you.
Funny how that works.
Yeah, yeah. It's like, oh, I'm worried about this. Should we call Xana? Oh, let's wait a while and see.
Yeah, yeah,
But if they don't know who to
yeah.
call, then they just stress about who should we call and where can we get this help,
Hmm.
and just a situation of not knowing where you can be heard or seen, or get some answers.
Right,
Um,
exactly.
yeah.
Yeah. So, what do you recommend to women who are having a hospital birth, but they want it to be really natural and really comfortable? Do you have kind of a must-have list or like a bag that you recommend bringing? I actually use the word allies because I say like bring your allies to the hospital with you. You know, the
Yeah.
things that you feel like are your friends that really help you to relax. So I'd love to hear what is on your list.
Well, my rebozo is,
Yeah.
of course, the must-have,
Mm.
because you can use the rebozo for massage, but also if you come into a birthing room and there are all these bright lights and maybe you can't tune them down, well, I just throw my rebozo over the lights,
Yeah.
so you get more of a soft and dimmed light.
Yeah.
Also, the mother can hide under the rebozo, so she has her own private cave if
Yeah.
needed. Yeah. So can be used for many things. If it's cold in the birthing room, well, then it's a blanket. So yeah. But other than that, it's important that she brings things that makes her feel at home, that makes her feel comfortable, and makes her feel, I am me. I'm not the patient in room 3.
Yeah, exactly.
Because you need to be yourself to birth your child.
Yep.
So, what do you need? For
Mhm.
some people, it could be essential oils, so it smells like home,
Yeah.
or music, so it sounds like home. And essential oils are also really good at covering up the hospital smells.
Yeah.
And music,
Yeah.
yeah. And music can take away sounds from alarms going off, or women screaming in other rooms, that kind of thing. So
Yep.
it again helps you create this cave. Um, Her own clothes.
Yep. Yep.
So something where she feels comfortable in giving birth in. And then I also always say, well, bring a picnic basket of everything you love to eat and drink.
Yep.
Because if you bring stuff you really like, well, then it's more likely that you are going to eat and drink. And that is so important during birth as well, to keep your energy and fluids up.
Yep. Yep.
Mm.
Absolutely. I also recommend a birth ball. So those big
Yeah,
exercise balls, you know, I find
yes.
I never, the last birth I did actually in Sweden, yeah, we brought the whole house in, you know, and they were, well, they were actually pretty accommodating. We had the birth ball, we had the yoga mat, we had the essential oil diffuser on, we had the music, you know, and then we
Mm.
even, because I was asked to by the birthing woman, put a blanket or like a sarong over the screen, the monitor.
Yes, yes. The rebozo
Yeah,
again.
exactly. Again, Urboso. And
Yeah.
it was so cool though, because when the staff came in, they were actually like, wow, it's so magical in here.
Mm.
It feels so good in here. And they really respected it, you know, which
Yeah.
maybe isn't always the case, unfortunately, but it was in this case, and then they were checking the monitor and they barely slid the sarong over to look, you know, and I was like, oh, if you need to take it off, it's fine. They were like, no, it's cool, you know. So I think when you really can claim your space as well, with respect of course to the staff, but you know, using what you can, it makes a really big difference in, like, I think claiming your power and your sovereignty as a woman, you know, and that staff member though they understand as they walk in the room, I think, like, oh wow, she kind of has her preferences of how things, you know, how she wants things, and it can be an interesting, like, entry point into the to the relationship as well.
Yeah, but it affects the staff, just like you say. So when they come in, they will speak with softer voices. They won't just throw the door open. No, they will come in gently and quietly. They will wait for the end of the contraction before they start talking. So and of course all the essential oils, if they're coming for the mother, they're coming for the staff as well. So
exactly. So true. And I just want to throw this in there about the essential oil. The peppermint essential oil peppermint and lavender have been my two, like, in my doula case all the time, because the peppermint can really help with the nausea, just putting it right under the nose, or with the energy, lifting the energy. I know that can really help. So just a little tip for the doulas watching. And oh, sorry, go ahead.
With the peppermint, do you know it can help the woman pee?
Oh, I didn't know that. Oh,
yeah, because a lot of women have problems to pee towards the end of the birth. So then I put a few drops of peppermint into the toilet, and for some reason, it's easier to pee.
Interesting.
Yeah, so try it.
Yeah. Well, what do you actually say to the doulas who might be watching, in terms of, like, what kind of other trainings do you recommend a doula have, other than just the basic doula training? Because I know you do a lot of different things and you offer them yourself too, right?
Yes. I think it's really good to do like a workshop in how to use a rebozo, if that is not included in your doula training. And also acupressure is a really good workshop to do, because it will give you a variety of ways to work with that. I also really enjoyed spinning babies workshops, where you can learn more about how the pelvis and the muscles and the ligaments and the baby all work together. And if one is out of balance, well, then everything is out of balance, and it can create so many problems, like a prolonged birth or even the baby being breech. So you can work with spinning babies techniques during the pregnancy and during the birth. So that's a good training to do. And two very inspiring workshops that I've attended was Orgasmic Birth with Deborah Pascal-Gamaro. Yes. And then, of course, Ina May Gaskin. Yes, if you get the chance.
Amazing. And I actually interviewed Deborah for this summit.
Oh, awesome.
So she's so wonderful. I've taken some of her online stuff. I love it. Great. Well, before we end, if you would be open to it, because I know your story of how you gave birth to your son, I'd love if you could share with us, like, that particular piece that I love so much, or anything that you want to share about your birth with him that might be inspiring for our viewers.
Yeah, sure. Well, I was 20 when I had him. And it was a planned home birth with 2 independent midwives in Australia. And they cared for me all throughout the pregnancy, and it was such a nice thing to have them all the way through. And just before my labor started, I was asleep and I was dreaming about a supernova explosion, the birth of a new star. And I just got the sense, and I just got the sense that, well, with a supernova explosion, everything changes. Nothing can be the same again. And as I was having that thought, I actually had a snap. and my waters broke.
Oh my God.
So I woke up. Yeah. So I woke up from this dream with the water just flowing out.
Wow.
So it was an amazing start. But then I didn't have any contractions. So for 8 hours, nothing happened. And my midwife started worrying about GBS, groupies, streptococcus, which I hadn't tested for, and that kind of thing. And I just, no, I'm not going to play the medical game. So I lay down on my couch and I started visualizing that I already had contractions. I just didn't feel them, but they were already doing a great job opening up everything. And while I was laying there visualizing I actually felt my first contraction. And and the contractions just kept going after that. So so everything was really nice, and we went for walks and had dinner and everything. And then a few hours later, my midwife came and she said, "Oh, it's early labor. Go to bed, and I'll see you tomorrow." And I just, no way. I'm giving birth to this child. So I had my my friend who was a massage therapist. She was massaging me, and I was visualizing again that I had contractions, and like that I was into active labor. So my poor midwife, she hardly got to her home and just had to come straight back. But when she came, I was so much in labor land, so much in my own body. I didn't even notice she was there. Wow. So I was in the birth pool with my partner, and we were cuddling. And then I just felt, oh, I need to walk around. So I went out of the pool, and I remember that I felt that I could hear drums. And they were playing this specific beat, and I had to walk to this beat. It was so important. And my friend was telling my partner to walk next to me, but he was walking the wrong speed. And I got so annoyed with him. I pushed him away. It was like, he didn't hear the beat. I couldn't put that into words, that you have to listen to the drums.
Right. Yeah.
He just didn't get it. So
this is labor land for everyone.
This is labor land.
What we're talking about.
Yeah. So I walked around, and then I ended up sitting on the toilet. And for me, it became a very spiritual moment, because I could really feel that there were women from all times, from all cultures, all places, and they were like standing around me, and they were playing the drums. And they were holding lights, and they were showing me the way, and they were like telling me that I knew what to do. I had all the wisdom within me. I just had to follow the drums and follow my body, and everything would work out. Everything would be fine. So yeah, I was sitting there, and on and off, I sort of came out of labor land, and I saw my midwife, and she was listening to the baby with a pinard, a wooden stethoscope. And my friend, she was sitting next to me, and all of a sudden she was saying, "Is she pushing?" And I thought that was so funny. So I just started laughing. And of course I was pushing. I was giving birth to a baby. And then the next contraction came, and I just dove right into it again, and to all of these women around me. Wow. And then after a while, my midwife, she called me.
Oh, you broke up for a second. You still there?
We settled into the hallway.
Okay, I lost you for a second.
And I squatted, and that's where I started pushing more actively. Oh, okay.
No, I got you back.
Where did you hear last?
That you were saying
yeah.
that, you were pushing, and then you were like back in that kind of circle again, and you were
yes.
You said you dove right in. So
yeah. And a while later, my midwife called me out and said she could see the baby's head and she wanted me to move because there was too little space in the bathroom. So I felt like I was walking with a watermelon between my legs.
Yeah.
And she wanted me to go to the bedroom, but when I got to the hallway, I was just saying, I'm not walking another step.
Wow.
So I just squatted and started giving birth then.
Wow.
And my partner, he was holding on the baby's head and supporting him while he was being born. And I remember all of a sudden he said, "What's this?" And I just remember, oh no, it's not a baby. After all of this, it's not a baby.
The things we can think would.
But yes. So the midwife took over, and yes, of course it was a baby, but he was coming with his hand up here. So that's what my husband was feeling. So she just helped out his hand, and he came out, and he landed by my feet, and I picked him up, and he was perfect, and it was so much love and joy and such an empowering experience.
Yeah, sounds like it.
Yeah.
So beautiful. Thank you for sharing. Well, I only have
thank you.
one last question that I'm asking everyone. It's just a simple little question. But before that, I would love if you could just give everyone a chance to kind of share what you're doing in the world with all of this beautiful work. I know that a lot of your work happens in person, so maybe just tell us where you're located and what kind of things that you're offering currently or this next year, 2018.
Well, I work primarily in south of Sweden, but I also do workshops in Gothenburg and in Stockholm. So I travel around when people want me to come and hold workshops. So I'm doing a childbirth educator training in Stockholm next spring. I'm training doulas. I'm starting a new concept called active baby, which talks about the baby being an active part during birth and how important it is to help the baby get into optimal position during pregnancy as well. So that is something new that is happening.
Ooh,
but then I also do childbirth classes for couples, both individual and in groups, and I do those both in person but also over Skype. So
okay, cool.
Yeah,
great.
And I already have
for everyone too.
Yes, thank you.
And you were going to say something else? You already have?
Well, I work in both Swedish, English, and German. So I'm open for clients from different cultures.
Yeah. Thank you. So my last question that I'm asking everyone is, if you could travel back in time and talk to your 20-year-old or 19-year-old self before you became a mom, now that you know everything you know, what kind of advice would you give yourself? If you could just sum it up in a sentence.
Oh, well, that's a big question.
I know, but it's amazing what's been coming through women when they just summarize it.
Yeah. Well, I think just listening to myself and listening to my body, listening to my baby within me, and trusting. Yeah. I think that is the most important thing we can do.
Yeah, I totally agree. And that's kind of what this whole summit is about, like reawakening this ancient feminine wisdom is what I'm calling it, which for me is that deep, deep trust that is just in our bones, and that we're going to have the guidance to know what the next steps are.
Yeah.
Well, thank you so much for joining us today. I really appreciate soaking up all of your wisdom and knowledge. It's been such a joy to talk to you. And have a wonderful rest of your evening in Sweden.
Thank you so much. Thank you for having me. It was lovely talking to you again.
Thank you. Bye, Xana.
Bye.